Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and realized they were carrying more pain than words could ever explain? One quiet evening at one of the city's most expensive restaurants, a billionaire was about to finish a luxury dinner when a trembling voice stopped him. "Can my daughter have your leftovers, sir?" The guests froze, the waiters looked away, and everyone expected the wealthy man to send her away. But when he looked into the tired eyes of the homeless mother holding her sleeping little girl, he saw something that changed his heart forever. Stay with me until the end, because this true-to-life story will remind you that one act of kindness can change generations. Before we begin, welcome to Enlightened Story. If you love emotional stories that restore your faith in humanity, please subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us share more stories that inspire kindness around the world. Now let's begin. Alexander Reed was one of the youngest self-made billionaires in New York. His business empire stretched across finance and technology. Yet, despite his success, he often felt strangely empty. That evening, he sat alone at an elegant outdoor restaurant, surrounded by expensive meals and happy conversations. As he prepared to leave, a soft, trembling voice interrupted his thoughts. Standing beside him was a woman wearing torn clothes stained with dirt. Her hair was messy, and in her arms slept a little girl who looked no older than 4. The child rested her head on her mother's shoulder, exhausted from hunger. The woman lowered her eyes and quietly asked, "Can my daughter have your leftovers, sir? She hasn't eaten since yesterday." Several customers stared with disgust. One waiter hurried over, ready to remove her before she embarrassed the restaurant. Alexander raised his hand and calmly stopped him. Instead of looking at her clothes, he looked into her eyes. They weren't begging for money. They were begging for dignity. Alexander gently asked, "What's your name?" "My name is Claire," she whispered, "and this is my daughter, Ivy." Alexander looked at the untouched steak, vegetables, and bread on his table. Then he looked back at Ivy's peaceful face. "No," he said softly. Claire's shoulders dropped as if she had expected another rejection. But Alexander smiled and continued, "Your daughter won't eat my leftovers. She'll have a fresh meal with me." The restaurant became completely silent. Claire couldn't believe what she had heard. Tears filled her eyes as Alexander pulled out a chair. "Please sit down." The waiter hesitated, but Alexander insisted. Soon, the kitchen prepared hot meals for Claire and Ivy. When the little girl woke up and saw the food, she smiled for the first time in days. Alexander watched as Ivy carefully shared her fries with her mother before taking a bite herself. That simple moment broke something inside him. He remembered his own childhood after his father died, when his hardworking mother often skipped meals so he could eat. Success had made him rich, but somewhere along the way, he had forgotten what real hunger looked like. After dinner, Alexander asked Claire about her life. She explained that her husband had passed away in a factory accident 2 years earlier. Medical bills, unpaid rent, and job losses had forced them onto the streets. She had applied everywhere for work, but without a permanent address or child care, every opportunity disappeared. She wasn't lazy, she was trapped. Alexander quietly handed her his business card. "Come to my office tomorrow morning. I'll be waiting." Claire looked at him with disbelief. "Why would you help a stranger?" Alexander smiled. "Because years ago, someone helped my mother when she had nothing. Today, it's my turn." The next morning, Claire arrived, expecting another disappointment. Instead, Alexander introduced her to his human resources manager. Within hours, she had a stable office job that matched her skills. Alexander also arranged a furnished apartment, child care for Ivy, and counseling services to help them rebuild their lives. Months passed. Claire worked harder than anyone in the company. She arrived early, stayed late when needed, and never forgot the kindness that gave her another chance. Ivy started school, made friends, and laughed like any happy child should. 1 year later, Alexander attended the company's annual celebration. Claire walked onto the stage to receive the Employee of the Year award. Fighting back tears, she held the microphone and said, "People think a billionaire changed my life because he gave me money. That's not true. He changed my life because he looked at me like I still mattered. He gave me respect before he gave me help." The room erupted in applause. Alexander felt tears in his own eyes. But the greatest surprise came a few years later. Ivy, now a bright young student, wrote an essay titled, "The Man Who Shared Hope Instead of Leftovers." She wrote, "The richest person isn't the one with the most money. It's the one who refuses to let another person lose hope." Her essay won a national competition and inspired thousands of readers across America. Alexander framed a copy and hung it in his office where every employee could see it. Whenever visitors asked about the framed essay, Alexander would smile and say, "That is the greatest investment I ever made." Friends often praised Alexander for his generosity, but he always answered the same way. Kindness isn't measured measured by what you give. It's measured by how deeply you care. Years later, Claire became the director of Alexander's charitable foundation, helping homeless families find jobs, housing, and hope. Together, they transformed thousands of lives. All because one evening, a hungry mother asked a simple question: "Can my daughter have your leftovers, sir?" And one man chose to see a human being instead of a burden. Sometimes the smallest moments create the biggest miracles. A smile, a meal, a conversation, or simply looking someone in the eyes with compassion can completely rewrite their future. If this story touched your heart, remember that kindness costs far less than regret and lasts far longer than wealth. Thank you for watching Enlightened Story. Never underestimate the power of one compassionate decision, because the kindness you show today may become someone else's miracle tomorrow.